Hey folks, today we will discuss about some fundamentals of the programming language. I will take C++ as a programming language, and we all know that C++ is a object-oriented programming language and class is a building block. So if I draw some picture of the class, this is just like a block, and if I give a name of the block, it's basically class, and we give some name of the class as my class, right? And the basic syntax of the class, we all know that it's basically class, my class, and then we keep something inside that. And we have a main function which basically creates a instance of the class. So if my class is my class, then we write this as my class and create a instance. Instance is basically a copy. You can make n number of instances for a particular class, right? And most important factor of that we will discuss about the construction of the class itself. So it will be the memory allocation of the class and the constructor. The important thing of this is constructor. Remember that constructor is a special function which does not have a return type, and it may or may not have any parameters. So if the class name is my class, the constructor is a special function which does not have a return type. So it will be my class. So it can have some arguments. This is my function 1, that means first constructor. It can have some parameters also. You can write some argument or parameters. You can write another constructor. Which has 2 arguments. So effectively we have 3 constructors, F1, F2 and F3. Now the C++ compiler, based on its signature means we call about the number of parameters and the type of the parameters, right? So based on that it will pick which constructor to call. And remember that if it does not have any parameter, then this becomes a default constructor. This is called as default constructor. These are the terms that you should remember. And based on the type and the number of argument of the parameter, the concept that compiler picks up the correct constructor, this is called function or only overloading. So you can remember these 2 terms. One is default constructor, another is overloading. Right? Now I am coming little more detail about the constructor stuff. Sometimes it happens that if we write some constructor as default, and if we don't write any constructors, you can directly write it here. My class. Now what will happen if you don't write this? The compiler will write this constructor for you, for default constructor. Now you may require to define the constructor itself, but keeping his implementation unimplemented. So you need to write a open brace and close brace. This is the one way of writing a constructor, to forbid the compiler to generate a constructor for you. Second way is basically, this is the smarter way, is basically instead of writing this, you can write as a default. That means you are telling the constructor that this is a default explicit, this is called explicit default constructor. That you write this implementation as unimplemented. Third thing is you can write this constructor as delete. That means neither you write this constructor nor you allowing the compiler to write the constructor for you. So this is called explicit default. This is called explicit delete. Again, these two terms are important, and we can remember these two terms. Okay. I'm just writing out this two stuff, and I will go through some further details. There are another two terms that is very important to know and very fundamentals of C++ programming, especially since this is the topic of discussion for today. So I will elaborate this. So one term is called copy constructor. So syntax of the copy constructor is basically you write the class name and you write some constant reference as an argument. So this becomes a syntax of the copy constructor. Now, why we write a copy constructor? Copy constructor is basically when we create some object out here and we pass this object as argument to some function. It can be a class name function or it can be a normal name function. We pass this instance and you have a definition of this function somewhere where you must be writing this as my class and some object. So here basically we are copying this instance to this object. Then this copy constructor is called. Now the thing is that why we need to write this copy constructor. That requires some further discussion point, because what happens is that if you don't write this copy constructor, then what will happen if you declare some, if you do some memory allocation or something and you do not write this copy constructor yourself, then there will be a shallow copy of the memory. Maybe in some another blog I will discuss about this, what is shallow memory and how to write this copy constructor, but for now it is enough to know that copy constructor is basically called when the object is passed as argument to a function or you return this object from any function. So as either as an argument or as a return value. So this is copy constructor. So today I have given an example of the stack allocation. This is called stack allocation. I will take up another block to discuss the object allocation. It can be a stack allocation or it can be a heap allocation. So that incorporate some smart pointers and all these things. But today I will only focus on the constructor. Another thing is basically which is related to this and very basics of object allocation is called assignment operator. Now what is the syntax? And I think we should remember it. When you write an assignment operator, you write the reference as a return type. You write the name and as an argument. And you write some, you need to overload that equal to operator, because assignment is basically when you write two instances, I1 and I2, you can write this as I1 is equal to I2. So you need to do a operator overloading of equal to, and you write the constant reference of my class. Again, we is basically for the I1 is equal to I2 type, or you can write some I1, I2, I3. This assignment operator is required. So as a summary, I want to just do a summarize this topic. I talked about today the normal constructor, and then copy constructor, assignment operator, and object allocation, C++ object allocation, which is basically stack type. So please like, share and subscribe my channel so that you can be up to date for the other blogs to come in my channel. Thank you very much.